Hey everybody, it's Bust with our final Legends of Runeterra video. And so we're going to take this one in two parts today. Number one, we'll talk about the state of the game FAQ. Number two, we'll talk about the future of the channel. If you want to go ahead and turn the video off, we will say, don't worry, we're not going anywhere. I'll still be around. I'll still be attacking aggressively. I'll still be trying to rain on the day of the control deck player. Maybe we'll get in a draft or two along the way. Not entirely certain yet, but the channel's not going anywhere. I will still be here. And so to cycle back to part one, I'm sure everyone, even if you're only casually following the space of Legends of Runeterra, is very familiar with the layoffs at Riot about 2 weeks ago. They put forth the announcements they were cutting 10% of the staff. Along with that was something like 75% of the Legends of the Runeterra staff, and then they were going to be focusing in on League, Wild Rift, Valorant, and Teamfight Tactics. Down to the end of the article, they had this special subsection to where the Riot Forge, that was the indie game kind of space of Riot, is just going to be completely gone. And Legends of Runeterra was getting some kind of special treatment that would be talked about in days to come. The days to come are here. The days to come was today. The state of the game FAQ was released, and spoiler alert, the competitive scene is going to be completely gone. And so there is a lot of good stuff within this FAQ. If you play Path of Champions exclusively, or the vast majority of the time, you might even be very excited about what came forth from this FAQ and the future space of Legends of Runeterra. More power to you. I don't have the heart in me to play PvE, and so it's been a real bummer for me, and I assume if you're a follower of this channel, probably for you as well. But there are some, good things worth reading in here. LOR is not dying. Sure, if you scroll down to the bottom, they cover off on a lot of the stuff like why doesn't LOR advertise? Why isn't it in the Riot client? Why didn't you just print a bunch of cosmetics for people to buy? Like, I get all of this stuff. I've seen some rumblings that people think this stuff is disingenuous, and to me, it's probably fairly accurate and not too much just marketing speak. I think that if you told me it cost $50,000 to make a cosmetic, I would not be that surprised, and I wouldn't be surprised if it even cost more. With all the time that it takes people internally at Riot and getting together the conversations for what you're going to make, and then getting the art teams together and hashing out what you want this to have and look like, getting with the artists and having them generate a bunch of stuff, and then doing revisions, and then having lawyers look at it to make sure you can release it in the various countries and make sure it doesn't have dicks in the art and stuff. Like, there's just so much that actually has to go into this. It's not just paying, some rando on Etsy $500 to make you a digital print. Like, I would not be surprised that on a lot of these cosmetics, they don't make their money back on it, especially if they didn't design the game in a way to where these things were easily accessible and addable. And so that all makes sense to me. The thing without having Legends of Runeterra and the Riot client always made sense to me. If you're going to spend 20 hours a week within the Riot sphere, right? And if you're spending your time in, say, League of Legends, and for every hour you spend in League of Legends, you spend $1, right? And so you're spending $20 a week. But for every hour that you spend in Legends of Runeterra, you spend, say, 50 cents, right? So if they could get you in League of Legends more, then they want you there. You're spending $1 an hour as opposed to 50 cents an hour in LOR. And that always struck me as the reason as to why this never made its way into the League client, because Riot did not want to siphon their players away from League into Legends of Runeterra, especially if Legends of Runeterra was having trouble making money. You don't want to take players out of your moneymaker and shift them into your non-moneymaker. Like, that just completely makes sense to me. I think all of this stuff in here was pretty reasonable, and I don't think it's a lot of marketing speak. The stuff that does sound wild and crazy to me is the last set coming out. There's going to be one more set coming up. I would assume it comes out in March. That's the way the patch cadence is typically gone. But after that, that's it. And this is the space to where, like, I really still had some hope that competitive Legends of Runeterra was going to be a thing, in the sense that if you are focusing on the casual space, a lot of very popular games do that, right? Magic the Gathering absolutely makes its money off of the casual player. The number one spender in the space of Magic the Gathering, in terms of volume, in terms of just the large number of people buying stuff, is the kitchen table player, right? So you go out to Walmart or you go to Target to buy your groceries for the week. You walk up to the cash register and you say, oh, here's the wall of Magic cards. Let's take a peek. And you go and buy some booster packs or you buy a commander deck or whatever, and then you leave. You have no interactivity with Magic Arena. You have no interactivity with the Wizards of the Coast site. You just like to play the game and you occasionally buy some packs at the big box store. That is the number one spender in the space of Magic the Gathering. The next one is the at-home casual commander player, right? Aren't people that are going to the LGS. These aren't people going to Magic Fest. These are people that have a game night every couple of weeks playing Magic and doing stuff with Commander and stuff. Way down at the bottom, you have the competitive scene. While the competitive players do spend a lot more money than the casuals, they do not exist in the numbers that the casual players do. And so I think that is why we kind of saw the flip-flop. If you see the stuff in terms of shifting from PvE to PvP and all of that stuff, I think that Legends of Runeterra probably has the exact same thing, as to where people playing Path of Champions don't spend any money, people playing PvP do spend money, but the people playing PvP are vastly, vastly outnumbered by the people in that PvE space. And I think that's why they did the shifts. That's why they did the stuff. I think that they had this space to where they had a large number of non-monetized people in the Path of Champions to where they had a small number of monetized people in PvP. The focus to PvP was to try to extract more money out of the people that pay, and now that didn't work. They gave it a year and a half long experiment. That experiment did not pan out. Now they're going to shift back to the PvE folks and try and extract money from them because they exist in much greater numbers. And so where this kind of cycle of thoughts is going to is I was really surprised with the last set coming out being the thing, because if you are a PvE regular, if you are a Path of Champions player, you're going to want more champions in the game, right? And so we say the next champion is going to be Syndra. Sure, Syndra needs a kit to go along with her, right? She probably needs some kind of magic wand. She needs some kind of mana buff ability. She needs something within her kit. I don't know, ball sling and ball join, whatever the Syndra shit is called. Like, that stuff all needs to be made into cards, because you can't just say, okay, here is Syndra as a champion. She's not getting anything else. It's just the champion. So Syndra is out here slinging fucking mystic shots and stuff. Like, that's not the way it's going to go. She's going to have cards associated with her. And so it was very surprising to me that they didn't continue down this path of still just like releasing core sets and then pushing those sets over into Path of Champions, because I assume the reverse is going to happen, right? You release the Syndra kit into the Path of Champions, you have it in your collection, now you can go play that into the ranked queues or play that against the AI or whatever you want your gaming to be done with. Now, to kind of piece forward with that, maybe it's not entirely the case, because you don't have to balance Path of Champions cards, right? If you release Syndra, she's absolutely the most powerful broken card within the game. You don't have to care, right? That's limited within the sphere of Path of Champions. You might have a few more easier runs on your Ascent to Aurelian Soul or whatever, but it doesn't like break the game. There's not people out there bitching about how OP Syndra is. You just, deal with it in the space of PvE, and it doesn't really matter. And so I think with that in mind, it does kind of tie into the removal of gauntlets, the ranked season rewards, the tournaments such as the Runeterra Open and Worlds/esports holistically. But it was very surprising to me that they didn't still follow that same kind of release cycle patch cadence, because that was also the most hype period for the game. You knew the new set was coming out. You would go to your favorite website to read about the new cards. You would see what your favorite content creators had to say about it, and that's when the hype was really built up. And so I'm sure that they'll try to figure out a way to capture the hype in the future, but I was very surprised to see that happen. But nonetheless, they cut all the competitive aspects out of the game. Gauntlets are gone. Tournaments are gone. Ranked is still here. Dave Guskin did come out and tweet that the ranked ladder is not going away, but they are re-envisioning what ranked means, which I assume means they'll probably like reset every 3 months, and they'll do like a minor balance adjustment or something. But at the end of the day, competitive as we know it is done, and the future of competitive, I assume, is basically non-existent. Now, I do know that there are a handful of grassroots organizations out there. There are still the LOR draft folks doing draft stuff for LOR, and I assume that will also continue in terms of a competitive tournament style of scene. I would say that someone out there is doing it, but it's going to be very small. And so that's just not really what I'm looking to focus on. I don't want to devote a month of grinding and a month of content creation to go play in a $50 first prize tournament. And so I'm sure that appeals to some. It doesn't appeal to me. We're going to be moving forward. And so that brings us up to the second part of our video. And so, moving forward with the channel, there's a couple of different things to say about it. The first set of things is I have three kind of guidelines for the channel, if you will. Number one, whatever game I want to be playing, I'm going to make content for it. I've talked about this in the past. I had a lot of formative magical years back in kind of like the 2010s or so, to where Magic Digital was very popular with Magic Online really kind of booming, but the digital content creation space wasn't really there. Luis Scott Vargas was really the only person making Magic the Gathering videos, and if you weren't particularly interested in the format he played that day, or you watched his one video for the week and you were kind of done, it was really a bit of a bummer. And so I really wanted to have the kind of space to where whatever game I'm playing, whatever format I'm enjoying, there's going to be content for it. I know that doesn't sound like as big of a deal now, right? Now that we're in 2024, like 15 years later, you go pull up Twitch, you go to the Magic page, and there's like at least 100 people streaming. Like, that's fine. It is what it is. But I still kind of have that that mentality and that thought behind wanting to make content, that you don't have to like it. Most people don't like what I do. A handful of you do. And if that's what you're into, it's there. And so if it's a format that I like, there's going to be content for it. After that, I can't play dexterity games. I can't bring myself to play something like Call of Duty or League of Legends, something that requires you to click a lot and make skill shots or do whatever. That's just too much for me. I'm too old for that shit. I'm way too boomer heavy to be able to handle that kind of gameplay. And so I won't be doing anything like that. The way I describe it is, as I'm at the gym in the morning riding the exercise bike, I like to have a game that I can play on it. Like, I don't watch the TV. I don't watch Netflix on my phone. I want to be playing a game. And I like the ones that are manageable on my phone as I'm on that exercise bike. Last but not least is I prefer there to be some kind of competitive element. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be like tournaments all the time or a pro tour or worlds or something, but I can't really get into long-term play if there's not that competitive element to it. And so I can't bring myself to play things like Path of Champions or Slay the Spire. There's a ton of good deck builders out there, but I can't play it day in, day out, hour upon hour, day after day, week after week. It has to have that kind of competitive tie-in to it. And so, like, I'm kind of at like a mixed bag space. I'll tell you, the two games I'm really looking to are Magic and Hearthstone, with a touch of vision down the future to whatever Reynad's auto battler is. And so I've really tried hard over the course of these past 2 weeks to kind of figure out what I was going to do if LOR did get flushed down the toilet, and it was tough, right? I like Magic Draft in the sense that the deck building is so like interesting and fun to build around, and it's such a impressive skill set that I don't think very many people have, which I feel like I do. And it also has a tons of formats, and it has a ton of competitive options. But with Magic, the mobile client is dog shit, right? If you've played Magic Arena on your phone, it fucking sucks. And the resource system with Magic and Pokemon, to where your resources within your deck does make it feel like there's a fuck ton of non-games, to where you keep a 2-land, 7-card hand, never draw a land the rest of the game. You keep a hand with like 3 planes and all blue spells, and you never draw an island, or your opponent mulligans to 4 and they have no shot right from the beginning. I would say that those non-games in Legends of Runeterra, maybe one a month, right? It was just so wild when it actually came up in Runeterra. I would be legitimately surprised, to where in Magic it happens in like 10% plus of your games. And so getting over that kind of aspect, to where the game is great, the formats are great, I like the set release and the cadence and everything, but the mobile client is dog shit and the resource system is dog shit, it is kind of tough to overcome. But you can move over to Hearthstone as well. With Hearthstone, I don't really like the limited formats. The Hearthstone Arena feels like the Bandle City era of Runeterra, to where every single card generates a card, and it's just a big value fest of RNG. and it can be like extremely frustrating to play against. That was my kind of feeling for Arena. You're not drafting Drex, you're drafting value, and so it was kind of a bummer. But the gameplay mechanics itself are just so much better than Magic. It has the mana generation resource system, and its digital client is actually made for play on the phone. And so playing it on that exercise bike in the morning is much more of a doable thing. And so those are the two I'm kind of flip flopping between. Like, I'm not going to play Pokemon, it just doesn't do it for me. I'm not going to play Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm too far gone from jumping into something like it. I don't like Shadowverse visually. I really kind of like the fantasy aspects of magic and LOR, and I like orcs and goblins and elves and shit running around. I don't really like the Final Fantasy kind of imagery that's in Shadowverse. I've seen a handful of people in the LOR community playing One Piece and playing Lorcana on the unofficial clients. Good luck with that. Lorcana's gonna make it 3 months before Disney shuts that down, and so I don't feel like that's really a viable option. And it really just kind of leaves us in this space of either Magic or Hearthstone. It just kind of is what it is these days. And so I think moving forward, I'm going to try it out with Magic and see if I can't have the mobile client grow on me, and if I can't just kind of get over the resource system after I've ground it out for a few months, or what we're going to do from there. But that's the plan. I'm going to switch over to Magic. The Murders at Karlov Manor comes out next week, and I'm going to jump into draft there heavily. And so within that space of Magic, the plan is to focus on draft. I would really prefer like 75% plus of the content to be draft, but in that space of draft, Magic releases sets like every 3 months. Like, once you're a month and a half into a draft format, you're kind of done with it and you need something else to do. They do have kind of throwback formats that pop up on there. We can do that, but I'm looking towards a kind of legacy based constructed format as well. And so they have a handful of that on there, and that's what I look to use to fill out the remainder of that time. And so that's it. I mean, that's the plan. That's what's happened. That's what's going on. LOR, I loved you. It's been a wonderful. We did over 1,000 videos, right? I think the final count was 500 expeditions and then 541 battles with Bust for a total of 1,041 videos. And so it's been wild over the course of that past 4 years or however long that is. And it's sad to see it go, but you gotta keep moving on. You gotta keep trucking. I'll look back on our time with LOR fondly. The people within the community, it's been wonderful to get to know you. I hope we do cross paths in a different queue if you're out there gaming, or if you're still sticking with the channel. Love to see you stick around. As far as the devs go on LOR, that's a big bummer for everyone involved there. I kind of kept seeing them fall like dominoes across the space of Twitter, and then I saw that Ruben Zoo was no longer there on the space of his LinkedIn page, and then I saw his LinkedIn, so I went and looked up Paolo's page, and Paolo was released as well. And it's just a big bummer to have your heart and soul not only just kind of tied into your job, but the game that you're making, and having that all taken away is a real fucking shit fest. And so sucks for them too, but hopefully we all get along. We'll look back on our time in Runeterra fondly, and we'll just kind of grow and move forward. And so that's it. Hope to see you in the space of Magic the Gathering, and that is going to do it for us today. So everyone enjoyed the video. Hope you maybe learned a thing or two along the way and had a good time watching. This is Bust, and we thank you for being here.